Hello, my beautiful IU. Mark Mangus, the digital shaman, here again with you. And if you're here for the first time, I want to give you a very special welcome. And if you've been following my live streams here in the circle for a while, welcome back. We did part one of the Munay Ki exploration of these rites last week. And this week we're doing part two. It's quite an extensive body of knowledge. So it really required two sessions, but I'm really excited to get into it with you. As I explained last time, following these rites is, well, I shouldn't say it that way. Being initiated into these rites and then practicing the reinforcement of them on a daily basis has completely transformed my life. It's not overstating it to say that. And this is part of the transmission of these rites is what I do as a shaman, and contextualizing them for your life is another part of what I do. So I want to get into that in terms of not only what the rites are, but how they can be practically integrated into your life and really be a major influence on your healing journey. But before I do that, I got some feedback last time from one of our viewers about something I said in terms of how these rites could be used for, the magic of these rites could be used for your own benefit, right? If taken out of context, that could sound a little polarizing, and that wasn't my intention. My intention is in the full context, when you look at all the rites and what each of them is about, using it for your benefit so that you can benefit others. It's that concept again of Ubuntu, which I'm going to get into with the Daykeeper's Rite, even though that's an African concept, not an Andean concept. I think they coincide and overlap very well. So when I get into the Daykeeper Rite and talk about that, I think it'll become a little clearer. Yeah, so enough about that. Hopefully I'll contextualize it. But if you have any other input, I'm always very, very welcome for whatever you want to say and any questions that you have. So last time we talked about the Seer's Rite. That's where we left off Kawak Karpai. Today we're going to pick up with the Daykeeper's Rite. And the Daykeeper's Rite is called in Quechua Pampa Masayak Karpai. Pampa Masayak Karpai, Pampa is actually a Spanish word meaning vast plain, one of the meanings of it. But I think it can also be taken to mean the whole of the earth, the vast plain, right? Mesa, again, is the bundle of stones, the table, the altar that a shaman uses with their stones and amulets for empowering their rituals. These are the stones that have agreed to become allies of the shaman to transmute energy. And then Yak is power. So Mesa power, Mesa Yak, right? Masayak. And then Karpai, of course, is right. So what is this one about? This is really about the Sacred Mother and being in a constant dialogue with Pachamama. Pachamama, again, is in the West, we say Mother Earth or Gaia. But Pachamama is our mother, the mother of all of us. And it's kind of journeying through the ego and not abandoning or destroying the ego, but understanding that we are because all of us are. And that is where I'm, one man's opinion, I'm linking it into the concept of Ubuntu. And if you haven't looked into Ubuntu, I would encourage you to do this because it's an absolutely beautiful philosophy from Africa. I'm not sure which African country it originates from, but variations of it are in several different countries. I just read a book. I might actually do a book review on the book I read about Ubuntu because it was just amazing. And it talked about the healing after apartheid and how the people that were oppressed were the ones that were actually leading the way to the healing through Ubuntu and through getting others to realize that we all exist individually because the whole exists. And the communities that really practice it have a saying, I am because we are. And that's just beautiful to me. It doesn't preclude your individual identity, but it gets you to realize that you're part of a community, you're part of an interacting whole. And I think that's that coincides very well with the concept of the daykeeper, right? And it's about the decisions you make every day to be in that community and to be a keeper of that concept. And if our own cup overflows, then we can fill the cup of others, right? So again, if we get back to the core concept of Aini in Andean cosmology, reciprocity, harmony with all things, the daykeeper rite is coincident with that, right? Because the idea is not to preclude or minimize the self in favor of the group, which other philosophies are, right? That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying here is if you are in harmony and reciprocity with all things, that includes yourself. And you're getting what you need, you truly need to heal so that you have abundance and you can give to those who don't. And vice versa, you are allowing others to give to you. That's a key there for me on my journey. I don't know about you, but I find it a lot easier to help others than to allow others to help me. And I'm getting better at it as I become more aware of it. But that's kind of what the daykeeper rite is, as I see it. And the idea of this is kind of a divine feminine focused energy about the mother, about Aini with the mother. And as we move into the wisdom keeper rite, next rite, this is more of a masculine energy focus, right? But keep in mind the context of all of these rites together is Aini. But as we move through the rites, especially as we're initiated in them and we learn how to reinforce them and how to transmit them to others, this is kind of like, again, my opinion, but it's kind of like all the aspects of how we live on this earth, how we live in this 3D existence, however you want to call it. These rites kind of go to all those different aspects and allow us to explore them more deeply and in a much more balanced way. So we get into the wisdom keeper rite, Alto Messiah Karpai. This one, they're all special, but this one really hit me like a ton of bricks when I was initially learning it and was initiated in it. Alto is refers to the Anka, the mountains, and the rite itself is kind of embracing the divine masculine and being in service and care. So whereas the daykeeper rite was more about nurturing the concept of being in harmony with the mother, being in community, this one's more about the male energy of being in service and caring for others actively, right? It's the unification of the earth and the sky. That's what the mountain is, right? The mountain, in a way, is an altar, spiritual altar. And the ancient Inca and the Q'ero today believe that the Ankas are alive. They're spiritual teachers, and they're extremely powerful beings. And when we commune with them, part of it is we find the Anka that is most in Aini with us and our birth. Now, if you live in the Sacred Valley in Peru, you know, your Anka is going to be one of these sacred mountains. But all of us live all over the world, and there is a sacred place somewhere near where you were born. It might not even be a mountain. Maybe you live in the plains, or maybe you live, on an island in the ocean. What I was taught was there is a place that resonates with you. And the Apu, the spirit of the Apu, doesn't even necessarily have to be a mountain, right? But they are always there for us. Those of us who weren't born near one, they're still there for us. They're still there as the wisdom keepers for us. So the wisdom is about, how would I put it? I'm struggling a little bit with the words. There's this whole legend about lightning striking and people that survive a lightning strike in the Andes are said to have been reprogrammed or changed by the spirit of the Apus, the spirit of the sky, Inti, Taita, Mamakia, all the powers. And they're very special people, right? Well, the fact is, most people that get hit by actual lightning don't survive, right? But you can think of it also as a metaphorical lightning strike. And think about in your life things that you've gone through that have just really changed you. I mean, I can think of things. I almost died in 2015 from a sudden onset ulcer that was caused by the pain medication I was taking because I was in excruciating chronic pain all the time. And that was my lightning strike. That was spirit intervening in my life saying, this is it. You need to figure this out. We keep giving you the message and you're not listening. So start listening. And the Wisdom Keeper Rite is about using those events in our life as the transformative lightning strikes that they are, and really listening to the wisdom of the Apus and finding your Apu. One of the fun things in the rite was spiritually connecting with one of these sites near your birth. Now, I happened to be born in the desert of Southern California in Lancaster, and there's nothing there but desert, right? Or so I thought. That was what I was always thinking. But when I went within as part of this initiation, it was called out to me that Red Rock Canyon, which is a national park there and is a gorgeous and beautiful place, is my Apu. And that's where I am to do a vision quest. I haven't been there yet. I've done vision quests, but I haven't been to that one yet. And I know when I go, hopefully this year, it will be very special. So all of that to say, using the power of transformation, the lightning strike, to transform your pain into service and care for others, that masculine energy. And I really appreciate that. So I look at kind of the Daykeeper Rite and the Wisdom Keeper Rite as a pair of rites, right? One is about the mother, one is about the father energy. And I love that. And there is that harmony, that parity with a lot of these rites. So next we move into the Earth Keeper Rite. Kurak Akuyek Karpai. And it's really the notion of looking at the earth as where the Daykeeper Rite was about the mother. The Earth Keeper Rite is about looking at it as this harmonious whole, this ecosystem of life and of creation and destruction in constant motion and in constant balance, right? There's the concept of Aini again. So in the book, Marcela mentions how profound it was in 1972 when the first pictures of the Earth, the blue marble pictures, they're called, from 18,000 feet up, these brilliant full color pictures of the Earth. Many people had profound reactions to that, and it had a very foundational spiritual impact for a lot of people. And it really showed how we all live on this one fragile little planet, and we're all part of the same race. There's only one race, humans, human race, right? Um, so it made it very poignant and very real for a lot of people that had never seen anything like that. Kind of take it for granted now because we have such amazing technology, and it's no big deal to see stuff like that. But the impact it had then was profound, as I said. And this is about making choices every day that are in harmony and for the betterment of this fully functioning ecosystem that we're part of. And some of the Native American tribes talk about the choices you make every day, living for 7 generations. And that's a good way to think of it. It's like, especially, the way I look at it is a lot of people kind of get locked into this survival thinking. And I know I did for many years. It's like, I just have to get through the day. Whatever I do is good enough. And I'm living minute to minute, but not in a very present way, right? It's just like I have to make a choice to get to the next choice and the next minute, right? But the Earthkeeper rite is about, I think initially, at least how I approached it was, what are all these little micro choices every day that I'm making? And how can they be more for the benefit of all, more for the benefit of the earth? That's kind of the first phase of awareness that I went through. Then the next phase was much more proactive, thinking about, well, I'll use a very poignant example for me, right? Because I do the Grow a New Body program as part of my teaching, but it's something that I live every day too, and it's transformed my health. But part of that is not just the food you eat, that's important, but it's the source. How is it produced? Where are you getting your food, right? And it really started getting me to imagine like the relationship I had with the food. So one of the things that we have now is we're in this convenience culture, right? Where we can get chef meal boxes delivered to our door. And I say this without judgment because I know everybody has a life where they have to make choices. But what I'm saying is there is a carbon footprint associated with getting your food that way, prepared for you, and all the packaging and all the labor it took to get it to you, that kind of thing. And then when you eat it and it's something that you didn't prepare yourself, what is your connection to it? Again, I'm asking without judgment. And I found for me, I felt disconnected in that way. I felt like maybe once in a while, but on a day-to-day basis, I've transformed this concept of labor for producing what I eat into an act of self-care. This is how I bring myself into Heine, is preparing my own food, almost always from raw ingredients. Now, we all have days where we're tired or, we had a lot to do or we're caring for somebody who needed us or all those types of things. I'm not saying that, at those times, get help somehow, buy your food from somebody else. I do that. But I'm saying as a philosophy, as a lifestyle, that's just one example. I used food because it's, easy for me to think of. But, what about transportation? What about where you live and how you live, the house you live in? What are the impact of all of these things on the earth and on ancestors 7 generations down, right? That's what this rite is about. And that's what makes it very poignant and very real to me is even, how is your yard work done? Right? Do you do some of it yourself? Do you do all of it yourself? Do you hire somebody to do it? Again, I'm not judging anything. I'm saying becoming aware of all these things is the point. And then starting to make choices every day that are more in line with not only how you exist on Earth right now, but how you will impact future generations. So that's where the sacred witness comes in to this. They talk about the sacred witness. This is also a concept I've done live streams on before. That's part of my daily existence, my daily consciousness. Eckhart Tolle has written books about it. But the sacred witness, right? Watching how you're living, what you're doing. And that helps, right? That witness is dispassionate. It's not caught up in ego. It's not caught up in your wounds. It's a part of us, all of us, that we can engage, that just watches, just notices. So while the other part of us may be locked in the survival mechanism, as we start to cultivate the witness, it can kind of watch everything that's going on. And it's a wonderful way to inform our actions, or inform our choices. So I know that was a lot, but the Earthkeeper rite is it's so amazing. Talking about amazing, now we move into the Starkeeper rite. And I want to mention here too that as we move into these, and I don't have time here to go into a lot of the history of these rites, but up until the Earthkeeper rite, they have been around for a while, hundreds of years. And then when Alberto started working with the Pacos in the Andes, Don Manuel Quispe and others, that he actually had new rites transmitted. And the Starkeeper, the creator, and the rite of the womb are new. So what does that mean? That means that, and this is a theme too that I'm calling in because of these last three rites, 3 of the 10, is we're in a time now where all of the different philosophies of the world talk about, and don't think I'm talking about doomsday or an apocalypse or anything like that, but they all talk about, from the Maya to the Hindu to lots of different cultures, they're all talking about we're at the end of an age. Even the Christians, right, with their beliefs. The Judeo-Christian philosophy of the end of times, people kind of take it as this heavy, destructive energy. But we are at the end of times. We're at the end of an age where humanity defined itself a certain way, is how I looked at it. And yes, there's this, toxic masculine patriarchy element to it. It just is. It's the way we've been living for 6,000 years, at least in my own studies. That's what I've seen. And in the demonization of the feminine in a lot of ways. But we can see very quickly, once we start getting into this, not only these rites, but studying history and studying other philosophies, how the negative impact on the masculine, as we demonize the feminine, we toxify the masculine, and we're not in balance. And we treat everything as a consumable resource, the earth and ourselves, and it's not sustainable. And that's what we're seeing. So we're seeing all these, the culture and a lot of the institutions that we've built based on the philosophies of being out of balance are coming to an end. They're falling away. I don't know if you watch the news. I don't. I get my news from probably either I try direct or alternative sources. But if you watch the news or you see any kind of mainstream media entering your consciousness, we're at this time of extremes where it's like, how I feel about it is what Spirit is showing us. It's so extreme and so polarized and so oppositional. It's the best word I can think of, that you have to question what's really happening, right? Is this even real? And so I talk to a lot of people who don't even identify themselves as spiritual, that are seeing this and going, yeah, I don't think that's really what's happening. And they're starting to question, they're starting to awaken. So getting into the Starkeeper rite, one of the newer rites, I think that in the book it said it was around 1989 that this came into being. And the Starkeeper rite is broadly about two things in my mind. One is where the Earth Keeper rite, it was about realizing that we're part of this harmonious ecosystem, that ultimately our choices decide whether it's in balance or not collectively. The Star Keeper rite is kind of expanding out into the stars and realizing that we're part of a cosmos that's similarly interconnected. Now, it may seem harder to connect with that idea than it is to the Earth, since we're standing on the Earth and we're sustained by the Earth. But the ancient Pacos talked about us being part of a stellar community or a cosmic community where we have star brothers, star sisters, and beings, not only living beings like us that we're connected to, but that everything is alive anyway. The stars, the dust in space, space itself, it's all alive, right? So Mosak Karpai is the name of the Star Keepers, right? And Mosak just means new. I think the funny story in the book is they talked about, well, this is the new rite, so we're just going to call it the new rite. And it kind of stuck, right? So the Mosak Karpai, and it talks about, I talked about these cycles kind of leading up to talking about the last three rites. They talk about the Pachacuti cycle, right? The Pachacuti is the poignant time where everything's happening, everything's changing, and we have creation and destruction. And it happened for the ancient Incas 500 years ago during colonization, right? And some of them stayed below the snow line and were colonized, and some of them went into the upper Andes and kept the knowledge pretty much intact during colonization. And it was for the colonizers, it was kind of a risk reward decision. I'm sure it's like, okay, we could go get those people, but it's going to take us a lot of resources to go after them. And we don't really know how to breathe or operate in the high mountains. So we'll just stay here. We've got enough people to, working for us and subjects of our new indoctrination of our religion and all the other things. So it's been happening for the keepers of this knowledge for a long time, in objectively hundreds of years. But I think they look at it as it's all part of this Pachacuti time where everything's changing and we're at the end of the age, as I said. So the earth changes, our relationship to the stars, all of this is, the earth changes in particular are related to what's happening. I don't mean in any way to say that, focusing on climate change or being aware of the changes that are happening to the earth aren't important. They are. But it's almost like with the Star Keepers, right? You have a higher perspective in a way to look at all of these changes as part of the cycles that are happening, right? It doesn't preclude holding people accountable that are causing it and working with compassion to change it. All of those things are also part of, being in this reality. But rather than getting caught up in the blame shame cycle and being right, having that sense of righteous indignation, and it's all about, my ego and I'm right and I'm a crusader and all that. There's another way to look at it. There's another way to look at it with Aini and with compassion and working everything you can do, not only on your own healing, which helps everyone around you, but focusing on how can I be in Aini in this way at the end of this age? How can I have compassion? Just showing compassion for people is makes you a leader, makes you a way shower, because most people don't. Most people are really caught up either in survival or they're caught up in this oppositional thinking of being right or wrong or being part of a group that they identify with. So the Star Keeper rite really elevates, in my view, elevates us into a way of thinking, a way of perceiving, a way of feeling that shows us that we're all part of this cosmic landscape, right? So I find it, rather than being overwhelming, I find it being very comforting that, oh, yeah, I guess that's the way it is. I'm part of a cosmic community, and I have brothers and sisters all over the cosmos, not just on the earth. And the way that that manifests for us, that not only that have been initiated in the rite, but if you just study it, in the book, Marcela talks about being close to the eye of the storm. And God, I think that's such an apt metaphor. The storm is happening all around us. It's going to keep happening. It's going to get more intense. But by shifting our perception and by focusing on how we're connected, it pushes us closer to the eye of the storm. And it gives us the wherewithal, the capacity, the ability to perceive in a way that we can be of service and not get caught up in all the, I hate to keep using this word, but all the oppositional thinking and all the oppositional systems that are still in place, right? That could be a whole other conversation, but I'm going to keep it focused on the rites. And the Starkeeper rite, the new rite, breaking free of time, breaking free of space, connecting to the all that is, connecting to brothers and sisters, life across the cosmos. To me, that's what the Starkeeper's rite. And just like the Ultima Syac, where we found, the sacred place where near our birth that we can connect to. The Starkeeper rite, one of the things you can do there is go into, connect to a sacred space within yourself at night under the stars and connect to a constellation and allow it to kind of connect to you. And that kind of becomes your waypoint, if you will, in the cosmos, and it gives you a more tangible, a more feeling connection to everything that's out there, your star brothers, star sisters, and all the things that are alive that are not people. Because again, everything's alive, according to Andean philosophy. So now we get into the last two rites, and the creator rite, the Taitanchis Rantis Carpi. Taitanchis Rantis Carpi. It's about being equivalent or similar to the creator or the creatrix, because there's no gender. When I say creator, even though that's a masculine word in English, the Taitanchis Rantis Carpi is about the creator of all things, which of course doesn't have gender, right? It's all genders, it's all things. And the Taitanchis Rantis Carpi is about us connecting to our own divine nature as creators and starting to realize that every thought we have, every choice we make, every word we say creates something and puts us on a path to a particular future. And especially if you're in pain or you're depressed or you're struggling with survival, it's very difficult to connect to the fact that every choice you make during the day determines not only your reality, but we're co-creating reality with everyone around us. And to take that on can seem overwhelming. But what I find in my life, since I've been initiated in this rite, is I'm more quickly bouncing back and forth between realizing that I am the creator of my reality and the things that everybody deals with during the day, getting stressed, getting busy, keeping the lights on, putting bread on the table, all those metaphors, right? But with practice, I think the cycle between, oh, yeah, but I'm creating this, and experiencing something where it doesn't feel like you're creating anything. You cycle back and it gets shorter and shorter and shorter cycles till one day, I think, you can live in that spirit and energy of creation most of the time, where that's your reality. And what a powerful gift that is for us as humans, to realize that we're not just here to experience everything and to learn to love and be loved, but we're also here to learn that we are creators. We are of the creator. And it's part of our infinite nature, our divine nature. And so why is that important other than our own personal gratification? Because this isn't about ego at all. This is about the stewardship of all creation. So you can see how the rites kind of progress. We talked about the earth. We talked about our relationship to the cosmos. Now with the creator rite, we're saying, and we are stewards of all that is, right? Alberto and Marcela like to tell the story of how the Andeans, since they are very familiar with Catholicism and Christianity through their experience over the last hundreds of years, the wisdom keepers of these rites and how they're taught in more indigenous thinking is they were never kicked out of the garden, and they feel like they're still living in paradise, and they are the keepers of creation. So it's a very different way to think, and it requires a lot of personal responsibility to realize that that energy can not only be used for good, but before we're awakening or as we're awakening, we also use it in ways that are not in our best interests. What do you think negative self-talk is? We're tearing ourselves down with that same power. So imagine if you could turn that on its head, flip the coin, and most of the time use that creator energy to create a positive reality, not only for yourself, but for everyone around you. And this isn't as complicated or as weighty as it might sound. I have this experience every time I go into the public with lots of other people, which, by the way, years ago used to drive me crazy. I couldn't stand to be around crowds. Now I seek it out. And if I don't get to be in a crowd for several days, I miss it. I find myself missing it. But anyway, you can be in a crowd and be in an energy and be in a state of intention where, first of all, foremost, be kind. Everybody's got their own things going on, but if you make a connection to someone and you can be really positive and smiling and projecting that energy in an authentic way, it's astonishing what happens. People gravitate towards you. They want some of that. They feel it on some level, even if they're not conscious of it. And to me, that's like the simplest, most profound way that this creator energy manifests itself is you're not creating kindness, you're kind of channeling it from the energy of the source or the all or God, whatever you want to call it. But you can see the effect of it immediately. Or, sitting with a friend one-on-one that's going through something hard, holding their hand, just being there for them, totally changes their energy, right? So all of these rites kind of have that in common, is there's kind of this grand vision of what it's about, but how it's lived, how it's implemented on a day-to-day basis can be very simple and very profound in unaccustomed ways, I guess is what I'm saying. And I'm on a relationship and I'm on a journey of transformation with these rites from when they were originally transmitted to me to where I am today and where I will be in the future. They're evolving in such a beautiful way, and I'm trying to stay in a mode where I don't have a lot of expectations about how that will eventually be. I'm just experiencing it. And that's available for all of us. I'm just sharing my experience to kind of give you a taste of it. So, last but not least, certainly not least, I want to talk about the rite of the womb. Kisma Karpai. So this was the most recent transmission. And this was transmitted through Marcela, and she talks about it extensively in the book. Not only her experience, her experience, but how it was, how it came about, historical context. This is about, so whereas the masculine energy is about, the masculine spiritual energy is kind of like rising into the heavens. It's about expansiveness in a way at its simplest level. This is about the feminine energy of coming within and going to a place of healing, like a womb, right? And drawing in that energy of healing and nurturing and easing suffering, birthing a new creation, all of those concepts. And I want to say the mantra that's part of the initiation. I don't think Marcella or anyone would mind if I do this because it's so simple and it's so profound. I want to share it with you. And it goes like this. The womb is not a place to store fear or pain. It's a place for creating and giving birth to life. The womb is not a place to store fear or pain. It is for creating and giving birth to life. There's a lot to unpack in that mantra, but whenever I say it, or whenever I think it makes me feel good because I think of how the creator energy in all of us has been used and is still being used for purposes that are not in our collective best interests. And the womb has been used to store fear and pain, and it still is being used that way when you think of it, the spiritual womb, right? And so it's no surprise to me that this initiation rite has appeared now in the way it has. And this is transmitted, even though men have an energetic womb, we all have an energetic womb, right? This rite is transmitted from woman to woman. And this doesn't leave out men. This is, in fact, men are needed to hold space for the women that are transmitting this rite. And just being, I've been a part of it a couple of times. And I can tell you that my own experience with it was this is the most emotional part or the most emotional rite. I mean, it's hard not to get choked up when this rite is happening because we all have our relationship, even as men, to the womb, through our mothers, through our sisters, through our daughters. All of us have these relationships and we all have this creator energy. We all can give birth to creation. That's what we were just talking about with the creator rite, right? So the rite of the womb is about balancing and healing that creator energy, which has been used for toxic things. Simplest way I can put it, right? And on a macro level, it's about giving birth to a new age and clearing the way to that positive creation. And so, yeah, it's hard not to get choked up even talking about it. It's powerful and it's new and it's current and it's needed. And this is part of what I've talked about in the past, the rise of the divine feminine, and part of my mission and the work that I'm bringing into the world is to try to embody that divine feminine energy for men and show how it can heal the wounded masculine, right? Because we're coming out of an age where everything is male dominated and there's no balance, to the rise of the divine feminine to heal that and balance it. And it's not about demonizing the masculine. It's about recognizing it's out of balance and it needs balance. And so these last two rites in particular, the creator rite and the rite of the womb, are kind of like how I've looked at it as my personal call to action. Like, this is how to be in the world. This is how to be in that creator energy and the healing of creation energy. So, yeah, it's really mind blowing. Not only in the, obviously I'm initiated and concerned and interested in the Andean philosophy, but all of the or a lot, I should say, a lot of the native cultures around the world are ending their own era of being a mystery school where everything is held secret for initiates only, and the process of becoming an initiate is protected. To many of these indigenous cultures now are saying, if you have an ardent and fervent desire to learn, we'll teach you. We're open. We want to, in fact, they're traveling all over the world and spreading the word to the people that they're called to. Not like interesting for me too, being born and raised a Christian. I'm familiar with kind of the proselytizing aspect of that religion and the indoctrination of going out and preaching a lot of times to people who don't want to hear what you say. This isn't that. This is these native wisdom keepers are being called to places where people do want to hear what they say, right? They're coming to places where they're wanted and needed, and probably there's more of that than they can even fulfill. And so the ones that I talked to, and I experienced this directly in Peru, were they look at this as this process of conveying these rites, the rites of the Munay Ki, and creating new pacos, new shamans, as their mission. They don't see any difference between them and us. Doesn't matter what our background is, doesn't matter where we come from. We're all human. We all have the divine right and the divine ability to connect with the powers represented by these rites. So, yeah, amazing stuff, isn't it? So, as part of the work that I do in my own personal mission, is I've created this 13-week program that not only takes you through these rites and transmits these rites, gives you the teaching and the transmission, but I'll also talk about a lot more practical aspects of how to integrate this teaching into your everyday life. Most of us live in the West, whether we're in Europe, America, whatever. We have this kind of Western culture, Western mindset, and bridging the gap between the beauty and the power of these rites and how do I actually live them is part of what us initiated people, us Pacos, shamans, have to do. We need to do, and it's our great honor to do, is to bridge that gap and bring the transmission to you and everybody who needs it. And if you're watching this today, I just want to offer, there's no accidents, there's no coincidence that Spirit put us in each other's path. I'll say it that way. So what I try to do is honor every connection like that without expectation. And what that looks like to me is, if you're interested and you would like to talk to me more about it with no obligation, know that I not only welcome that, but I look forward to it and I want to talk to you. And when I say no obligation, I mean it. I want to understand what the connection is and embrace it with no expectation, as I said. So think about that. Feel it in your heart. Feel it in your body. Is this right for me? Is this a step on my path? Is this something that I should embrace for my own personal development? It may not be, and probably isn't, the end. This is a step. This is knowledge that you need to have, right? To continue on your healing path and maybe not only awaken your own inner healer, but like I and so many others have done, awaken to the fact that you are a healer and you can use your wounds and your vulnerability as your power. And you can bring that to other people and unlock the healer within them. So it becomes like ripples in a pond when you drop a rock, right? Those ripples are the awakening and the healing of everyone around you. And it starts with you. So take that in. And I have to say, this two-part series here has been an amazing and wonderful experience for me to kind of revisit these and the history and everything that Marcela brings in the book, which is just amazing. And she's just an amazing woman and a powerful shaman. And I've enjoyed it. And I hope you have too. And I hope you really got something out of it and it made you think about what your next step on your healing journey is. And if I can be part of that, I'm here for you. I'm ready. That's my mission. I'm standing up, raising my hand to spirit and saying, I'm ready to be counted. Let's do it. So with that, I leave you with love and abundance. And I hope to talk to you soon, either in this forum or one-on-one. Let's do it. Let's move forward. Let's heal ourselves and everyone around us. Aho.